Hello and welcome to the episode podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and obviously we are here to talk about the review for Emergence here tonight. I just finished watching it honestly a little while ago, but it does take a while to get these things together, as we do say. So it is what it is. So results. I actually want to talk about one thing before we do get into the results. This really doesn't play too much into the results. Leiling Lee has re-signed with TNA. I didn't even know her contract was up or whatever, but that is good to see that they have re-signed Lee there to keep her on the roster. So that is good. We need to keep even if she's just going to be a tag team person or whatever else it is. It's like, well, we need as many people as we can get to fill out the division sometimes, and it is what it is. Even though I do feel like Zaya and some of the other people that are in that division, it feels like they should have been pushed a little bit more into a more, or sort of got a bit of a push more into the mainstream, knockouts, main event sort of scene. Haven't really got to that point yet. So, but the thing is, you honestly need to have a lot of people as well. You need to have a lot of people to be viable. So, anyway, what have you? We will get on with discussing the actual show itself. In first match on the countdown was Indy Hartwell versus Rosemary. I feel like, I don't know whether I feel like this is over yet. I don't know. But either way, Indy Hartwell won this one. Not a lot to write home here with, apart from Danny Luna coming out to sort of help Indy avoid the mist. I'm sure that's sort of leading somewhere in some way or some form or some fashion, because it did seem like there's a lot of tension there, and it's like things like that. So I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. So, but yeah, like I don't really know. We had a little bit of a segment with Moose, talking to Sammy Callahan to fire him up for his match with Santana, which was pretty cool. The Hometown Man versus Ryan Nemeth. This was the next match and the last match on the pre-show or countdown show, whatever. I was super surprised that the Hometown Man won this. Like, again, not really a whole lot to write home about here, but, like, I thought, like, Ryan should win this thing because, like, maybe you start thinking, well, they're thinking, like, he's more of a tag team guy or whatever else it is and things like that. So, I don't know what you could do with the Hometown Man being, like, involved in the tag team scene, so I don't really know why you kind of did this. I don't really know. But I guess, like, the Hometown Man has kind of got a streak going on, so, like, that makes some sense, I guess. I don't know. You could have, like, it would be, like, really funny in some ways to have the Hometown Man versus Trick Williams at some point, or whoever, whatever, wins the belt. But I don't think it'd be that good, honestly. But whatever. Either way, we will see where that goes. First match on Emergence was the X Division title match between Leon Slater and Cedric Alexander. I think that basically this was the match of the night. It was really kind of close, but this sort of set a really good standard for the night. Like it was probably the best match of the night. It's really tough to say, but it's probably the one that I enjoyed or thought I'm thinking about the most, besides maybe Santana and Callahan, though that match wasn't like as good, but it's just sort of more very memorable in some ways. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but like, yeah, Slater pulled out the victory here, and whatnot. So, I don't know what Cedric's gonna do. Like, cause is he gonna stick around? Like, we haven't even heard that he's been signed. So, like, maybe this is like, as I sort of said before, a fly-in job. He's just coming in to do some stuff, and that's it. Like, here's a couple of matches, and off he goes. Maybe he'll stick around to Bound for Glory. Who knows? Wait and see. But maybe he will sign a contract. They're treating him fairly well. Like, he hasn't won anything, but like he's getting involved in some interesting programs, and you could get him involved in other programs. There's the international title there. He could get into the tag team division, I guess. I don't really know who he'd team with, but like he could get involved in that. He could get involved in the world title division. So there's obviously space for him to be doing stuff. So he obviously could be, you know, around for a lot longer. It's not just saying, oh yes, he'll disappear or whatever, but it's just like those are the things. It's like, well, we don't know, or I don't know at least, what his circumstances are in those regards. And start to talk about someone like Lei Ling Lee, down the track. It's like, well, obviously, like, I thought, if you hadn't known, or if you had have known that her contract was up or whatever, that it'd be like, oh well, she's not doing anything and she's not staying, or she's gone or whatever. No, they've just say, hey, resign. Like, so obviously they've got plans for her down the road, that sort of thing as well. So, but yeah, absolutely the highlight of the night, I think. But yeah. Then backstage, Mean Gia Miller interviewed TNA World Champion Trick Williams in First Class about their upcoming match. Then we had Mustafa Ali versus Matt Cardona, and this one I'm very confused. But I guess they're trying to build this long term. I don't know. Whatever. Because Matt Cardona won this, and it's like, well, why? What for? I don't know. This was a fine match as well, I think, but it would have been a lot better. Like, I guess not with so much interference, but like it would have been a bit better without so much interference or whatever. Especially if Ali is not gonna win. Like, if Ali's gonna win, then okay, cool. We see the interference, whatever. But this time it didn't really come together for him, so it's like, what was that? Kind of thing. Not bad, but just, it's like, well, what was all that interference? Like, the heel's got to get that heat, I guess, but still, it's like you're making him look really weak by not being able to win with the cheating and the shenanigans. Post match, Order 4 jumped Matt Cardona, but the system came out to his aid, and so First Class came out to have their match with the system, which came up next. Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers took on First Class, and yeah, it was like, again, another one. This was pretty solid, I think. I think it was way more solid than the Hardys versus than the Rascals, because, like, at least people had their horse. Yeah, absolutely, people had their horse in the, like, Hardys Rascals match, but like, that's what I mean. Like, you shouldn't have. Like, I don't know why they've done this twice now, where they've kind of put a babyface, like the babyface teams in there together. It's like, this is not going to go well for the other babyface team. Like, the Hardys are way too over. There's no point in putting another babyface team in there against somebody. But yeah, the First Class won this one, and yeah, like I said, I think this is to build them up to start going, okay, we might put them in with the Hardys or whatever it is, but not right now. It was said, I think, at some point, I don't know where it was, it might be later down the track here a little bit, that the Nemesis will get their title match on Impact. I think it's next week. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see for that. But again, since it's on Impact, it's obvious they're not winning, and since it's on Impact, it's also obvious that this was not really well thought out, because it probably should have just been on this show, and they realized, oh shit, yeah, we can't get them to defend it at Victory Road because Jeff can't go to Canada, so what are we going to do? So they really should have thought that through a bit more than what they did. And I don't know what they're going to do for Victory Road, but yeah. The TNA injury report came up. Trey Miguel is out with hernia. Casey Navarro is out with torn ACL. Moose is cleared with the hip injury. So those are the updates on that. Joe Hendry joined Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywald on commentary for the battle between Mike Santana and Sami Callihan. It wasn't a very good match, but it immediately, or before even the match started, it became a hardcore street fight. But it wasn't very good. It wasn't like an amazing street fight. I think Callahan's match with Mace Warner, his I can't remember what it was now, that they had recently, was like way better than this. Was it the Clockwork Orange match? I can't remember what it was, but whatever they had. Oh, no, it was a Barbed Wire Massacre. Whatever it was, anyway, they had recently. That was like just way better than this, but you had this feeling like throughout the match that Santana was like not quite pulling the trigger and not quite getting serious or whatever it was, somewhat. Even though like through this match he took some punishment and Callahan was in control and seemed confident and seemed in control. Suddenly, after he like hit the pile drive, one of the pile drivers, and Santana kicked out, it was like all downhill for them from there. For him, he sort of lost confidence and he lost his momentum, and he did get another pile driver off, but it didn't really get him to the win. So it was fine though. I think it was very memorable in some ways. But yeah, like not the best stuff here in some ways as well. But yeah, Santana won this one. I don't want to say it wasn't hard fought, because in some ways it really was hard fought, but in other ways it wasn't, because like I said before, he was kind of like not wanting to pull the trigger, not wanting to get serious, almost not wanting to do anything against Callahan for most of the match, because he kind of like was, I don't know, seemingly feeling bad to try to end somebody's career or whatever. But after the match, they shook hands and Callahan took his boots off in the ring. I'm feeling a bit like with this, because it's like I kind of wanted Callahan to have one more like title match. I kind of keep thinking, like, as I said, like with the Mick Foley situation, one day somehow down the road he's got to come back, like, and have one more, like, especially like big return, big time match, like something. They kind of tried to do that, like, again with, like, it seemed like they were going to do it at least with Dreamer and Warner, but that didn't eventuate. So I don't know why that was, that you like teasing this thing and you're not going to do it. But whatever. Backstage, Eric Young confronted Sammy, so seems like like EY, he lost the other day to Santana, so it's like, what has he got to say for himself with saying, oh, you lost, yes, but you lost too, like type thing. And here's where Ryan Nemeth reminds everyone that he and his big brother have a rematch for the titles. Okay, so that's where it was. I didn't quite remember where it was. But anyway, the Knockouts Tag Team title match. This one was chaotic, and as I said before this match got going, they came out and said, hey, Lee, we better renew that contract, girl, effectively. And everyone basically in this match had a second or a third or whatever, an extra partner on the outside. The Elegance Brands obviously having Ash, the fatal influence obviously having JC, Zaya and Brookside having Marsha, and the inspiration having Mara Slade. So, yeah, everyone had somebody kind of in their corner here. But this one was a pretty good, especially considering that the girls, they, like, especially the women's tag teams, they never really seem to get a whole lot of time and energy and effort put in. They usually seem to end up on the pre-show or countdown show or whatever you want to bloody well call it. And they never seem to get any really, like, there wasn't a really major storyline here, but they never really seemed to get a really major storyline or a major angle kind of going. And the obvious angle kind of here is like, oh, NXT, the trend of NXT beating TNA for their titles, so that was like the main thread throughout, like the people trying to stop the NXT people from like winning the titles and taking them away, which I think the Elegance brand was trying to take advantage of. Like, they were trying to, manipulate it so that they could, get in there, and eventually they did. They found a way to retain the titles here, and walk away with them. So you've got to be thinking, like, the inspiration, they're like the only real other proper tag team that's in this division. So you got to be thinking, like, well, we're trying to build back to that or whatever. I don't know exactly, but like Lei Ling and Brookside, like I said, Lei like feels like she belongs with somebody maybe in the tag team division, maybe. But you could also say she can be in that like upper card of the knockouts division as a challenger. I think that's fine. I actually think that she should challenge JC Jane at some point, maybe, or even Zaya should challenge JC Jane at some point. But yeah, I don't know where you're gonna find the things to do that at this point, so it's like tough to figure out. But still, like, if you're going to do something with Brookside and Lee as a tag team, I think you've got to kind of not wrap them up, but you've kind of got to wrap them up. I was talking about, Indy Hartwell and her promo with what's her name, with Danny Luna. Finally remember what her name is, but like, one of those things is like, it seems like there's tension there with Danny. She seems like, oh, I want to tag with you or whatever, but Indy seems like, oh, I want to go for the main title, and it's like, oh, okay, priorities or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, this was a pretty fine match here for the knockouts titles, and yeah, it was absolutely chaotic. But yeah, after this, Indy claimed to go after the knockouts title. Then we had Steve McLean versus Jake something. I saw so many people thinking that Jake might win this, but I was like, what are these people, thinking? It's not like he had a bad performance, or it's not like he's ever had a bad performance, but it's just like the only match that he's ever won was like against Macklin, Mace Warner, a couple of weeks ago, or whatever it was. That's the only match he's won in TNA in the 5-something years that he's been in the company, I think. Besides when he was like in a tag team with Cody Deaner, I think. Like, those are, like, he hasn't really won anything in this whole time. He hasn't won any matches. So it's like, dude hasn't, like, got any momentum or hasn't got any believability behind him, in my mind. But this one was a really, really good showcase. I think, like, this was probably close to being, like, match of the night, too, in some ways. If not in contention for being match of the night, absolutely. Just an absolute fight between these two. And as I sort of said, Macklin walked away with the title here, sort of setting up something seemingly with Frankie Kazarian, but like, it makes me scratch my head in some ways. But then again, you start thinking like, you've got to, like, if you're going to have anything, you've got to elevate everything as much as what you can. So bringing Kazarian into the mix and kind of saying, okay, he's also going to beat somebody that just, fairly recently beat, one of the former world champions. Again, I kind of feel like you're kind of trying to build him up in that way of saying, well, he might challenge Trick, for that world title. I don't know. I keep thinking about whether that's the direction or not. But it's also funny because not funny, but it's also weird because you've got Mike Santana there, and it's like, well, they've kind of been going in that direction too. You've also got Joe Hendry there too, so it's like, even though he's lost a few matches, it's like, what? And like, it's funny, well, not funny again, but like, it's weird in some ways that he's not on this show, because it's like, he has a commentary role, but it's like, so what? You should have had a match of some sort, especially like with Ali or something, just because he just lost to him, or with friggin' Kazarian either, because he, recently lost to him. So it's like, some of these things you can't just forget about. You've got to remember that these things happened. And, characters have that motivation. So, but yeah. But yeah. Next up was the tag team match between the Hardys and the Rascals. I really didn't like this match. Didn't really like the match that they had like a year ago with the Rascals, when it was Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel, and this time it's Wentz and Myron. Like, the Rascals, I think, performed pretty well. They did the best of what they could here, but like, I don't want to put down the Hardys, dude, but these guys, like, it's time to move on. Like, they're super popular, and they can still do some stuff, but, like, they can really only do enough stuff in a multi-man match where everyone else is doing something, and then they come out of nowhere to win, or to whatever, to do something. One or two big spots or something. They really can't keep together a match on themselves, in my opinion. Doesn't really, like, you can just see that they can't, go at that level that, they need to be able to go to, unless it's like, dude, these guys need to turn heel, which just not going to do. So again, like, this was just a poor match, because no one like the poor Rascals, who, like, they should have just turned heel, like, in this match. Like, they should have just been heels, because at least then they'd be getting like some like decent, like, good reactions for what they're doing, instead of just like apathy by people who are just sitting there to watch this nostalgia act that is, worn out its welcome, in my opinion, at least, in some ways, because these guys can't go, anymore, really. And, like, it's going to be even worse when they face, or at least in theory, face Bully Ray and Devon, who literally, like, Bully Ray can barely go, and Devon can't go. Like, so it's like, what are you going to do? That's going to be an absolute, like, now I'm thinking it's going to be an absolute stinker. Like, it's going to be a big time match that's, nostalgia hashtag train. And the same thing with, like, Edge and Christian. Like, them reuniting in AEW sounds like a great idea, but it's like, those guys can't go no more neither. They look like old men, swimming through the treacle fields, like, so, I don't know, you've got to kind of, like, put somebody else younger and else over, because these guys aren't where we need to be anymore. Need to be, like, remembered for what they were, and, legends and everything else, and then move on. So, I don't want to be mean to them, but, this is where we're at. But they shake hands at the end of the match, And of course, the Hardys won this one. AJ Francis and Rich Swann hold an impromptu first-class penthouse where they disrespect Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens mascot Poe came out, backed up by the system, to usher them away, which was kind of funny, honestly. Now the main event, Trick Williams versus Moose. I think that this is just a little bit behind the match between Macklin and Something, and just behind the match with Slater and Cedric. So this is like the third best match. It doesn't really mean it's like that much worse or that much further behind or whatever. I think like the worst match of the night for me was the Rascals versus the Hardys. Absolute worst match of the night, in my opinion. Just was falling apart at times in some regards. I don't know what else you would say was like that, like, that bad. Like, some of the decisions I don't 100% agree with, but I still think that they could, fix them all up. But everything else I think on this show, besides the Hardys, is really pretty decent, if not really good. And then like Cedric, Moose, and Macklin and Something was really good. And I think maybe the Elegance, the Fatal 4-Way tag team match in the women's division was probably just a little bit behind that. So like, I don't know, and those were the only few real matches that were on this card. Like, I think like the pre-show matches, the main reason why I said like Indy versus Rosemary was like meh a little bit was probably because it wasn't given enough time as well, and they should have gave that more time, again, as I said before, over the Hometown Man versus Ryan Nemeth, but whatever. But still, I feel like this was pretty interesting, the main event. Moose coming in with that hip injury, and that's actually a legit hip injury that he suffered at Slammiversary. He's been gutting it out for a little while here. That surprised me with what he can kind of do here, especially, like, as I said, this is probably like the second or one of the third best matches on the show, and with a guy who's got an injured hip, and but yet he looked better than the Hardys looked in their match with a legitimately injured hip. Like, he moved around better than what they did, but I guess they're like 70, 80 years old at this point, or whatever it is. I don't know. No, they're literally 50 or something, or whatever it is. But whatever, they look like they're friggin' 80 or whatever, because they move. That's how slowly they move now. But that's like the ring, whatever you call it, ring damage or whatever. All those years of taking bumps and whatnot. And you've got to respect them for that and whatnot, but still, whatever. Moving on. Either way, Moose's family was by ringside to see him in this clash. Some really good stuff here in places. I do feel like some of it was a bit, like, I don't know, not slowed down too much, but, there was some parts of it that, felt like this, like this wasn't thought through enough or whatever in some ways. Maybe it was thought through quite a bit, but like some of it didn't seem like it, because it seems like, Moose should be fighting back a lot harder in this match, at least throwing punches and whatnot here and there, instead of just getting pie-faced all the friggin' time, or whatnot, especially like he should like come in and decimate Trick at some point and, really give Trick a whooping, getting all the people going, whoop that Trick, a little bit more. But beyond that, I think like that's probably the thing that would have set it to the next level. But yeah, unfortunately, Moose didn't get it done here tonight, and Carlos Silva had to go into the ring to present Trick with the TNA title. Like, at a certain point as well, as I said, like, I start to say this experiment, like, at some point needs to have, and I think they've got that in their mind, but it needs to end. Like, you can only do the same sort of thing so many times and it work out, and you're starting to get diminishing returns. So you've got to bring in, like, this was a really big, like, match in some ways, but like, you've got to bring people up. You've got to make people think, no, Trick's going to lose it, even if it doesn't make any sense. We really want our guy to win it, and it feels like he's going to win it. No, he's not going to walk away, and then somehow, somebody he does. You can't just have it feeling like, oh yeah, Moose isn't going to win. Even if we really want him to win, he's not going to win. And it doesn't seem like he's going to win because there's no real momentum there, and he hasn't been built up long enough, or whatever else it is. So that's like the hard part of that and of these things. Overall, a really good show though, and that. So yeah, but yeah, we will have to wait till next week to the Build for Victory Road. Obviously, as I said, we've already talked a little bit about it. The Nemesis getting their contractual rematch. Obviously, the Hardys are going to win that one, which probably should have just been on this pay-per-view. I don't know why it wasn't. And then switched around the matches maybe. Like, you could have the Rascals on TV as a defense, and then moved on, or whatever. So, but whatever. So yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you guys, if you watched, you enjoyed the show. I mostly enjoyed the show, for the most part, yeah. But some things, obviously, like, it's everyone's opinion to themselves, I guess, as well. And like the live crowd is a lot different from my perspective. I would be sitting there on my hands, kind of, with some of it, like the Hardys match, I would play over going, come on, just get this over with, kind of thing, sort of thing. So, but yeah, guys, if you did watch the show and you enjoyed that, that's all right. Like, that's your prerogative to like it. It's my prerogative not to have liked it. So we can disagree on that or whatever else it is. Still enjoy TNA wrestling and still build the brand up and still try to do the best for the program itself. That's the goal, in my opinion. So, guys, I hope you will join me again in another one.